It makes sense to me.
So, yeah. Hi, everyone. So, you guys, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
Hey, I'm Kyle Hagan.
I'm Steve Rubin.
Yeah, and so we're here today to talk through Destiny deck tech. So, we just started recently. This is redundant. We just started playing Destiny recently and have been through a few events and thought it might be a good idea to go through some of the stuff that you might see out in the Destiny meta world. And so today we're going to be talking about Palpatine and his E version of his deck. But first I want Steve to kind of introduce himself and talk about, why he plays Destiny and like what do you do and what brought you to where you are right now.
Yeah, so I'm Steve, I guess before. So I started playing Destiny about, 2 weeks ago, I think now? Time in that? Yeah, something around that.
Because that's the first time we could get any, cards.
Yeah, I started with the Spirit Rebellion set and started picking up cards from that, because that was the first one that was available to me. So, actually in the first box I pulled, I got Palpatine, and that was kind of what started it for me, because he was the only guy that, he's 28 points by himself if you get the elite version of him, which intrigued me that you could have a single character be powerful enough to take on any decks that have like 3 to 4 people even. So I figured I'd want to try and make that work. And so a bunch of trades and boxes later, I have a pretty decent running Palpatine deck.
And so Steve has a background of playing Conquest competitively, so we've been to things like regionals and worlds before with Conquest, and so Steve's a pretty competitive gamer in the games that he plays in, so expect that to be the more serious side, and my side to be the more, doesn't understand what's going on.
So I'll put the winning, Kyle. All about it.
So today, the deck Steve ran was the good guide with guide deck from Star Wars Destiny DB. So I think is it the exact same as that one, or
I might have changed 1 or 2 things from the version I was looking at, but most of the cards are basically the same.
Okay. So. And again, like E Palpatine is pretty standard right now. Like there's not a lot of there's like 3 cards you differentiate maybe between those the decks.
Thereabouts, yeah. A couple events and a couple of the
yeah, so we'll link to that down in the comments. So if you want to see what the deck is, and we're not going to put like a full list there, but we'll link to the Star Wars DB site so you can see that. So the first thing we're going to start off with is the battlefield. So the battlefield is Maz's Castle. It says claim, draw 2 cards, place any number of the cards from your hand on the bottom of the deck. So in any order. So it's probably just to accelerate, right? I mean,
yeah. The idea for it is to help you get to the cards you're looking for. Specifically, the Sith Holocron. If you didn't start off with one after a mulligan, or like Second Premonitions, which is another card we'll talk about later, or or if you like an upgrade ability. That
yeah, it's to really solidify Palpatine's like upgrade set. And
and it helps you get to your stuff faster without having to just mass discard during the draw phase.
And it's a mechanic you see in lots of games. Like the one to comparatively would be Scry from Magic. It's kind of like where you get to like look at the top card and either put it on the bottom or top. You can really make it so you're getting a lot more consistency. The thing I like about Destiny is like you have 30 cards, so you're going to see a lot of your deck every time you play, which is nice, but this makes it even nicer, right?
Yeah. And it's also a nice one that if you... it doesn't hurt you if the opponent claims it, kind of thing, because there's because quite frequently with Palpatine only having 2 dice against most people who have like 3 to 4 dice rolling each at the start of the game, it's not as often that you'll get your location. So if you do and they somehow end up claiming faster than you, it's not going to hurt you or bite you in the butt.
Yeah, I've seen other people run Moisture Farm for that same reason, because in the deck they're running, they don't really care about someone getting a resource. But yeah, I agree. It's one of those battlefields where you're like okay with someone claiming it, and like 99% of the time you're probably claiming anyway because you have 1 character. Just to preface, and we probably should have said this earlier, these are going to be more videos for people who've played Destiny before. So if you haven't played Destiny and you want to listen, that's fine. We might not be going over the nuances of the verbiage we're talking about or the jargon we're using, like E Palpatine means Elite Palpatine or anything like that. So if you do have any questions, let us know in the comments below, and we can kind of try to answer them, or other people can as well. But these are more meant for people who are going to know the meta and know the cards. So feel free to do what you need to do at this point. But we're going to jump into upgrades now. So I'll just leave these up here right there. Of course, we have 2 Force Lightnings. We have 2 Force Throws, or Force Pushes, sorry. 2 Force Throws, 2 Mind Probes, and 2 of the very famous Sith Holocrons. So Sith Holocron has been a very popular include in most of the dark, or the villain blue decks. I mean, when Vader Raider had Sith Holocron, I think there's some other ones that built it too, because it's just such a solid...
The elite Kylo, elite Darth Vader, or young Darth Vader, what you want to call him.
Yeah, young Vader, I think, yeah.
Yeah, they use Sith Holocron quite a bit as well. It's just a really, really solid card purely because it gives you the ability to put out stuff at much earlier than you would normally for basically no cost, and you get to keep recurring the card back to your hand and putting it back out again, and you basically, it's the main thing that drives equipping Palpatine in this deck.
Because as you'll notice, 4, 3, 3, and 4 are really expensive.
And most of the money you have is spent on events to survive. So like the Sith Holocron is a really strong way to make sure that you can get things out reliably.
And Sith Holocron, yeah, go ahead.
It's also hard to remove. There's not many cards that I know of that can toss it back.
Disarm, Disarm can't hit it. No, Disarm can't hit it, but I think there's a few Sith Holocron can be a real big target, so you want to make sure you can cycle it. So like, dropping it turn 1 without anything to play with it in your hand is not a really good idea. I would think,
Usually not, no.
Yeah, because you kind of want to get money out of it by just kind of dropping it when you need to play something for cheaper, and it's a nice action push too, because it costs nothing, right? So pop it down, your opponent now gets to go. Don't put it down if they have, like 3 cost dice that can disarm it or something of that nature. You don't really want to do that, but it's nice because it's that action push too. So, and the thing that I don't think is in this deck, but Sith Holocron was really played a lot because it can give non-blue characters blue abilities, blue only character abilities.
It totally breaks the mechanic of the equipping to a blue character only, because the check state only happens when you play the card, not after it's already out, which is kind of
why the cargo hold works. So, Mind Probe, deal an opponent's character 1 damage. So that can be really good, depending on when you get it off. You're rolling Palpatine right away.
Yeah.
So generally they're going to have a full hand when you use this, because you roll it, then they do something, and then you see if you can resolve Mind Probe, right? It doesn't cost you anything. It lets you deal a bunch of damage. So
right, and the other nice thing is, usually when people see the Mind Probe special get rolled, they then immediately try to remove that, as opposed to paying attention to Palpatine's dice, which is actually the more important dice to have out.
Yes, they are.
Because no matter what you resolve in Palpatine die, it makes them do damage that they have to spread to each of their characters.
Yeah.
So having those dice stay on the board longer is the ideal situation. So if they're worried about 4 damage from Mind Probe, they're not paying attention to the fact that Palpatine could do possibly 5 damage to a single target.
Right. And it's just in case we didn't go over that and you haven't been reading, Palpatine does do 2 damage. He lets your opponent choose to deal 2 damage to any of their characters as they wish when you resolve 1 of his dice. So any Palpatine, what?
It's character dice.
Yeah, character dice. Yeah, so I'm not saying character dice, but so you're dealing 4 damage a turn with E Palpatine, because that means 4 extra damage a turn with E Palpatine theoretically, as long as he gets to resolve his character dice.
Yep.
Force throws, solid removal, and as you notice along the board, it's 2 special symbols per die, which is really cool. I almost feel like if there was space in this deck, Command Shuttle might be a solid drop, because you could, unless Command Shuttle is only character dice.
It might be only
character dice, but there's just a ton of special symbols in this deck. So, expect to be rolling these quite often and being able to resolve a lot of them at once, which is really nice too.
Yeah.
I like the removal from Force Throw. It's one of your cheaper ones, so you can actually play it based on, if you get some stuff.
You could possibly get it on first turn if you roll the resource on Palpatine.
Yeah.
And then the other nice thing about it is a die removal from their side, and it does damage at the same time. So it's free extra damage, and they don't have to worry about coming back to hit you, kind of thing. So a lot of these ones have a nice mechanic of messing with the opponent's dice on top of doing other things. So like Force Push, for example, lets you change sides on 2 of your opponent's dice to any side you want. Which, yes, they can just re-roll that again, but that means you're losing a card.
And an action, so
you can buy yourself some more time.
Yeah, and you can see from some of this stuff already, 2 discard, 2 discard, and 2 discard. You might even be able to get your opponent down to close to milling range if you are, kind of getting stalled out with this deck, and they have some way to mitigate a bunch of damage.
Yep.
You might be able to even start milling them out with the right stuff. So.
Yep, which happened once in one of the games I did. I got them down to 1 or 2 cards left.
Force Lightning, brutal. It's brutal numbers here. Like, on Palpatine's 2 or 3, you get a resource for 4, deal 1 character damage, or 1 damage to a character, and play off all of the things that are bad about all the other dice you have, basically. Because you can just keep doing it, and if you're rolling all the blanks, you still have something to do.
Or if your opponent's blanks as well.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Oh my gosh, more removal. I didn't even think about that.
So it makes them a lot more ready to start rolling dice once they see that you've rolled a special on.
So that really combos well with Force Push then, because if you
too.
turn them to blank sides, you're like, bring it, because I'm going to start dealing 3 damage to extra turn every time I can roll Force Push a special.
Yep. Or rolls into another high damage side again.
Yeah,
So
I almost think this deck might benefit from a little more focus. If you could start to focus some sides, that might be really good.
in the events, there's some.
Okay. Well, let's move to the events then. So, again, we're not going to keep these up here. I'm going to move through these. But you can check back on the link for the card game VB page or something like that if you guys want to check out what's going on. So, we got Deflect, Feel Your Anger, High Ground, Isolation, which is solid removal. No Mercy, talk about that.
So
The Overconfidence, Premonitions, Rise Again, and I'm going to have to come over here. Let's move these this way.
Top personal.
And Use the False. That was my best Ben Kenobi. We haven't said do it yet, but
I haven't. No, I was waiting for you.
I'm sorry. Do it. So you can see what we got here. These events are relatively cheap because you're never going to pay full cost for Rise Again, unless you can help it.
Yeah, that's at least with this setup. There's a couple of ways you can get Rise Again out, but most of the time you're not going to have a lot of resources left over each round because you're spending them on mitigation, which is pretty much all of these cards except for No Mercy.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I was looking around. It's like
mitigate.
removal
Removal as well.
And then you have card to play Rise Again and the card that deals a ton of damage.
That nukes things, yeah.
So your good opening hand is No Mercy and 4 other cards. Like, that's a great opening hand, especially
assuming you roll max damage on Palpatine, yeah, it can be a pretty solid start because you're then hitting 7 direct damage with No Mercy and 4 discards, and then additional 2 damage they had to spread out how they'd like, which means they usually can't put it on the same target you hit for 7. Mm-hmm. And if you roll both of his dice at damage, you can very easily nuke a character in one turn.
Oh yeah,
No Mercy.
Easily, especially since your opponent hasn't been able to do anything yet, right? I mean, turn 1. We're talking turn 1 combo here.
Yep.
Like, later in the game, No Mercy becomes a little more mitigatable because you can have shields. There can be things in play that can stop that from happening. Like a personal shield would totally mess up No Mercy's resolution on a range die.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that can really stop it, but an early, very first turn No Mercy can catch you off guard and really mess up your day, especially if you're running something with like. So what you can notice too is that you can kind of judge how many characters are in a deck based on how many hit points or the total are. So the lower number of hit points, the fewer actual character cards they have, and probably the more uniques they have. Because a deck that's generally going to be running, like 3 First Order Stormtroopers and a Tusken Raider has a lot of HP, but not a lot of staying power. Right. Because if you hit a No Mercy, you don't even have to maybe discard all your cards to kill something with No Mercy on your first turn because it's only got 9 hit points or 8 hit points. So. Yep. That can be pretty interesting to take someone's character out turn 1. I think it's happened with Maz a few times just because she's so squishy.
I killed Maz in one round in one of the games I played a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Which was pretty nice.
I'm a big fan of Isolation, especially in a deck that, and that's what you'll notice too, all of these is spot of blue, spot of blue, spot of blue, spot of blue, right? In no deck are you going to play these more often than when you have a single blue character, right?
Yeah, because once he's gone. But until then, you're guaranteed to be able to keep using it in a 2-color deck. If you knock out, you knock out Maz, let's say, and that's the only yellow, you can't use Electroshock anymore because it's spot of yellow to do it.
Yeah, and then Premonitions can get wonky. So
yeah,
if you haven't really played against Premonitions or don't really know what it is yet, you should definitely check it out and start reading some of this foreign stuff on it because it gets pretty nuts. Because you can Premonitions your opponent's Premonitions to get the card they're hiding on Premonitions, which is a really interesting uniqueness thing.
Yep, and you can even use it to set up a trap if they're going to try and do that to you.
If you, what is it,
Price of Failure.
Price of Failure, yeah. If you throw Price of Failure on it, they'll have to kill one of their own characters to ready one of their characters.
And it's the last character
God. Yeah. So, but it's cool to really, I think the only combo in this deck is pretty much Rise Again, right?
Usually, yeah. So Rise Again, it lets you heal 5 damage, and then you may play an upgrade from discard pile on the character for free, as long as that character is unique to begin with. So one of the things you can do with it is if you put out Premonitions with Rise Again, you can.
They don't know it's Rise Again, by the way. You put it face down.
Yeah, it goes up face down, so they don't know it's there. But at this point, it's usually assumed, I think. And then you can then take one of your upgrade cards, that Force Lightning or Mind Probe, whatever. Discard it to reroll some dice, and then that way it's sitting there, and then play your Premonitions to then heal off 5 and put out that high cost card for free at the same time. Mm-hmm. It ends up being a really nice, powerful combo that saves you 9 resources.
And the nice part about that one is that I think its second chance says put your character at 5 health, or it says something specific about how the health works. But this one is just simply heal 5.
Yeah.
So you don't really have to like lose anything from playing that. If you needed to do some early rush weird thing with it, you know,
Yeah.
you could try that as well.
Yeah, since that second chance is an upgrade, it takes one of your 3
Yep,
slots.
that's another thing too. Is it's an
Palpatine's
upgrade.
only got three available to him because he's by himself.
And so that's really where Maz's Castle comes in, or Maz's Castle is like trying to hit the second premonition.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the last two, and I can put these up here with the other ones so we can look at this all at the same time, is going to be Dark Presence. So just trying to leverage a little bit of that discard power there to try to get some more stuff happening with removal. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the most powerful things that this deck can do is make sure your opponent's not murdering you in the first 5 turns.
Yep.
That way you can out-tempo them because you've dealt 20 damage because it's 5 turns or something like that,
Yeah.
right? And Dark Presence is one of the... there's a set of them in Spirit of Rebellion. It's Dark Presence, Imperial Inspection, and Salvage Stand or something like that. They all care about what happens after you roll a symbol, and they all let you do really cool things, and they all cost 0, which is one of the most important parts about that card, is you can play it turn 1 if you don't have a No Mercy and still get a lot of value out of just rolling Palpatine's basic dice.
Yeah, and there is some question as to like why or how useful Dark Presence is in the deck, because typically you're wanting to roll Palpatine dice almost immediately to get the ball rolling. But just putting out Dark Presence is already an action wasted on it, so you can then... So typically other players will either try and delay as long as they possibly can, which is buying more time to set up more cards, or they have to roll a character in, and then once you roll yours in, you have a pretty decent chance of getting the discard die to show, which once they roll in, you can immediately remove one of their dice of their choice, but still they have to remove one of them. And both route 2 dice removal off of a single die roll is pretty darn powerful.
And yeah, we're keeping the resources low here, as you can see. We really want resources to play events. Like you really want to be able to control the field, and that's a really important part here. Because again, these upgrades here are stuff that's going to be played basically with just
Sith Holocron or dropping one out for the other. Since
or straight.
Since it's 3 cost, going to 4 cost only costs you 1 extra, which means you can still play an event that round and maybe manipulate a die to whatever you want, or remove something, or whatever you need to do, kind of thing.
Yeah, and so overall kind of weaknesses of the deck in general. I'm going to put all the cards out, but you want to talk about that? So one of the ones we've seen has been targeted dice removal of Palpatine's dice can really mess you up.
And people will actively try to remove those dice first and foremost, even if it's a blank sometimes. If you don't have another option, they'll try and even get rid of the blank one because they know they can re-roll into something better, since he only has 1 bad side to his dice. The other, actually just this last weekend when I was playing in a tournament, a rather fun card that was a really good turn 1 play against Palpatine was Negotiations.
Yeah.
Because all I had to do was remove 1 of their dice, remove 2 of yours, and if it's turn 1, you only usually have 2 dice out.
Yep.
And so you kind of just are left sitting there going, I guess you get to punch me now. So that's cool.
Castle, I guess, all set up for next turn.
Yeah, so it's pretty powerful, and Electroshock is also really good because he only has 1 side that actually can't be removed from Electroshock, so it gets value to remove Palpatine dice because you're losing that 2 to 4 extra damage.
I wonder if that's why the merit of running like TIE fighter pilots could be good here. I don't even think you can, because he's 9. So 1 and 1, do the cargo hold training combo.
You can do that combo, but it ends up being too slow to get Palpatine to be as strong as it needs to be. Because for some reason...
But then you have a chance for 3 upgrades, or 6 upgrades, though, right? If you still Holocron stuff? Okay.
Potentially, yeah, but it ends up being that the second Palpatine die adds a huge amount of extra damage, more than what it seems like it does. And it puts on a stronger timer for the game of, like, if you don't kill me soon, I'm going to wipe you out even just with passive damage.
Yeah.
And the TIE pilot, since...
It might protect Palpatine. 1 of his dice, but you're losing a whole Palpatine dice, which is a big deal.
Yeah,
it's a really big deal.
And cargo hold if they claim it, they can move the training back off of Palpatine.
Yeah, and they can actually mess up your upgrades too. So like, one thing about that combo that people, well, not that combo, but that card that people may or may not know yet, is that if they get to pick what moves, and they get to pick what gets discarded from the movement of
the owner gets to pick what's discarded.
Oh, I heard the other way around, but anyway, moving it to a 3, moving it to someone who already has 3 means that they're going to lose one of the attachments, one of the upgrades, sorry.
Yeah.
So you're giving a little bit, that's, again, Maz's Castle, Moisture Farm, not as dangerous to run, because if your opponent claims that they're not getting a huge advantage of something that they might not be able to do otherwise. Even things like like Starship Graveyard or Imperial Armory, those things are still helpful for your opponent because every deck's going to have supports, every deck's going to have upgrades. So you really need to be careful about who's claiming what, or making sure that the decks you're playing against are very, you know the decks you're playing against. I mean, there's some pretty commonalities between archetypes, but so any other downsides? Like,
well, I found out pretty harsh this last weekend that if you don't roll damage, you don't get to kill anybody.
But you did really well the first time you played Palpatine, but
yes.
It was a little bit of a different deck. But
yeah, that one was actually able to roll consistent damage. At this last tournament I went to, the first game I didn't see a single damage size show up in Palpatine at all, and so doing the 4 damage each round to spread to 3 different characters meant it was just going way too slow.
Yeah.
In order to do anything of value, I couldn't use No Mercy because I didn't have any damage dice showing. So
that's a big deal.
So I couldn't nuke the one guy I needed.
So did you try to discard to then use No Mercy for 3 cards instead, or?
I couldn't even he had it was a plot and 9s type deck. Okay. So he was making me discard cards and lose money.
Oh,
so I couldn't play No Mercy some rounds because I didn't have any money left.
Yeah, that is one big downside, is that your big combo is 2 resources. So you got to be keeping it, and if you're hitting constant. If you hit like a 2 disrupt at least once a turn, that can really mess with people, and that's why Unkar's ability is annoying too, because
it's also a discard.
You're discarding from their hand and getting money, and if you hit a No Mercy, you're getting value, and like these are cards that you want to have in Palpatine. Rise Again. Yeah. If you hit a Rise Again, you've just done something amazing with it.
Yeah, I mean, even with Kylo Ren and his ability, if you hit a Rise Again, you're hitting for 5 damage.
Yeah, but at least with Kylo. Yeah, I don't know. I guess you play the same against Kylo as you do as Plut and Car. Because you really don't want to keep big stuff in your hand, which is actually a big problem here. Because Kylo Ren or a deck that cares about what's in your hand, all this stuff is going to hurt you so badly. Yeah. In the sense of either you're getting a lot of swing in the resource control of the game, or you're taking a 5 damage on Palpatine would be impossible. It's
it's painful.
Yeah. So any stuff that you had really fun, like you had a lot of fun doing, like anything where you're like, oh my god, I just dealt like 12 damage, or holy crap, I did this, or anything like that?
The No Mercy nuke on turn 1 is a really satisfying thing. If you roll his 3 damage side, hit No Mercy, like I said, it's 7 damage straight up, and then another 2 damage he has to put somewhere else. Yeah. Which obviously can't go on the same person, otherwise they're probably dead. That's a really fun combo, and really puts people on the back foot in turn 1, which is very, very fun.
Have you ever been able to leverage blanks? Like, this deck has some pretty cool combos for doing blank stuff.
Yeah, Fury Ranger helped me in a couple instances. There's one...
I feel like these 2 fit together really well, or maybe even these 3, right?
Or even use the Force can turn a die to a blank as well for you. But yeah, Fury Ranger lets you remove a number of dice equal to the number of blanks your opponent's dice are showing. So even that 1 blank showing, it still gets you value because you can get rid of a bad one. Mm-hmm. But if they roll like 4 blanks, you just slap that thing down and get rid of over half their dice.
Yeah, like because you cannot respond to your own blanks right away, which is one of the like caveats. It's like you have to keep in mind every time you roll a die in Destiny, you better make sure that you can either you better make sure you have another plan, because if you exhaust Palpatine, roll all of his dice, and 3 of them are blank, you're gonna get wrecked by something. I mean, your opponent has a chance to respond to you activating a character unless you're doing some nonsense like Rey or the Maz thing where she can activate her have fast hands. That's why fast hands is so brutal right now.
Kind of even Django, actually.
Yeah, Django. That's why Django's brutal, is because he just gets to go.
Yeah.
But that's kind of an interesting aspect there too, is that your opponent's blanks count when you care about those in this deck, which is nice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and even better is if you have Feel Your Anger and Force Lightning.
Yeah.
Get rid of all the dice that aren't blanks, and then just have Force Lightning out there.
Ping.
And if they don't, if you've gotten disrupts or discards earlier on, they can't do anything about those dice, and so you're just gonna get all kinds of free rolls.
Yeah, and the actions you take in a row, that can be cool. Anything you'd add or take away? You think it's pretty solid?
So there's been talk about putting in like Jedi Mind Trick and Force Illusion.
Okay.
For some
Force Illusion can be really good to save Palpatine's butt.
It can be, yeah.
You have to discard a bunch.
You do have to discard, and so it ends up being kind of problematic with premonitions because you might discard through your second premonition.
Oh, it's not even discarding, I'm sorry, it's milling, or like, the off the top of the deck mechanic, so that's even a little bit more chancy.
Yeah, and so you might mill through your premonitions thing, but it can save you against some pretty heavy hits from a Pomaz deck throwing rocket launchers and vehicles at your face.
Did that happen to you this weekend?
No, actually, I
Okay,
didn't fight
good.
any of them, thankfully. But yeah, so but there's argument to have both of them in there, and you kind of use one or the other situationally depending
What's
on.
Mind Trick do?
So Mind Trick makes your opponents split their dice into 2 different pools.
Got it.
As evenly as
That's
possible,
kinda cool.
and then you, the person who played the card, gets to pick which pool he removes from the game.
Those are always nice too because giving the one reason I don't like them is because they take time out of the game. So if you're on a timed game and they have to sit there and think about what they want, they can take time that you let them take. So if you're super competitive, you probably don't like Mind Trick because you don't want your opponent to sit there and have to think about dice because that's something that can be really really subjective when it comes to how much time they're wasting. On the other hand, though, so many mistakes can be made in that splitting of pools that you'll most likely be able to capitalize on something too.
And like even if like they have something like Vibro Knife, which is a pretty painful thing to go up against with Palpatine because the only way you can defend yourself is with shields.
Yeah.
Vibro Knife negates that. If they
Do you get shields in this deck?
You can get shields in
No,
this
I guess
deck.
he's got 2.
Palpatine does 2 shields per. You can also take immobilization, I think it's called.
Immobilize, yeah.
Immobilize. That's just nothing but shields. Which
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'd be willing to. I'm considering putting in here over.
But it's another upgrade, which is something.
But it's a
that-
cheaper one too. You can play it, it's a 2 cost. So you can play it on turn 1 and start getting shields out immediately.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. And it also lets you jump into Force
What do you
Lightning
take
on
out
turn
from
2.
that?
I would probably drop the Mind Probe and leave
Yeah.
Force Lightning in.
The reason I do like Mind Probe though is because it can be a solid way to start a turn, and you're going to be claiming, so you could go first every time.
Yeah.
But you have to roll the special side. So.
Very true. But you also changed to that special as well. But yeah, I was saying, yeah, so immobilize is good against shields, but if they, with Jedi Mind Trick, if you split the dice out and they have Vibro Knife on one side, even if it's a blank, they'll probably roll to get the damage
Yeah.
to go through, so you can just take that off the field before it even becomes a problem.
Yeah, and you can. That's a good point. You can remove dice that, because you get to still choose. So like, even if you're playing something like Palpatine, you can negate like the 2 damage from Palp's card, right? Or from Palp's die. Because if you're in E versus E and you play Jedi Mind Trick, you never put both those dice in the same pile
exactly.
ever.
Exactly, yeah.
So like, you're always gonna get one at least, which is really nice because. But you might get only one, and they have to do it evenly though. Oh, that's even better. That's even better because it means you're at least hitting half their dice every
Yes.
time, which is how much does that cost?
Costs 2.
Oh, that's so
Maybe it's not 2. It might be 1. I don't remember anymore.
There's another card that I think could be pretty cool in here because the blank switch is that one that lets you reroll, and if it's a blank again, you deal 2 unblockable damage. But it costs 2 to play, and it's
that's
a
a
support,
support.
and I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think it can fit.
Yeah, that. For
You might
Palpatine,
be able to
you
even
don't
take
want
these out for.
possibly, yeah, but that's another action you have to do, right? And so you want to.
No, these out for. I'm sorry, I sidetracked again.
So,
For your your immobilize, just because this is kind of like I don't know.
It could be.
I've had really good luck with my Storm deck, so basically it's like 2 First Orders, a TIE Fighter, and
Death Trooper?
No, the Guavian dude. I can't remember his
Oh,
name.
the Enforcer.
Yeah, and it has just enough removal to make it really annoying for your opponent. So best defense, things like that. So with things like this, I feel like you have 6 removal cards in your deck. I don't know how many there are supposed to be, but
Actually, even on confidence as well.
8. Yeah, I'm sorry. You have at least 10 cards that can do removal in your deck already. Is Dark Presence necessary? Is it a one of?
It could be. I don't know. It's one of those things because it costs 0 and it basically does free work later on.
Yeah, no, that's true.
It's a strong argument to keep it, but at the same time, if you're always rolling your dice first, they may not have dice in the pool
Yeah,
because you only playing it. You don't
which is
play
a
against as much.
legitimate problem. So, all right, well, thank you for joining us. If you guys have any comments or anything you want to say about Palpatine, or have played him, or want to play him, or any suggestions on the good deck from Star Wars DB that Steve played, let us know. Don't forget to subscribe and like our videos and our channel and everything. We'll be doing a few more of these, so we just have to play the decks first, so give us some time. Make sure to come down on Tuesdays and Saturdays, because that's when we generally play Fantasy Flight card games. Sign up to be a CollectorManiac, because that's really cool, and cool people do it, and you should be one of those cool people, so we can hang out. Well, that's what else. I think that's about it. Anything else I want to mention?
I don't think so. Maybe a store champs in the work at some point for
Yeah,
Destiny.
well, so store champs are happening now, so keep an eye out for that. We're going to be posting that in the FFG CollectorMania group, and join that if you haven't. But yeah, we'll keep you updated on Destiny stuff. We should be doing one tournament a month. That's going to be something that's happening, so also keep an eye out for that. If we get more content, more
Product support.
product, yes,
Yeah.
thank you, we'll be able to run more of those, and we're looking at maybe a bi-weekly if we can get any more. So, yeah, come on down and join us for some more Destiny, and thanks for watching.